Hello everyone, this is Push the Lane. I'm Nick Allen, and I'm joined by a guy who plucks his chest hair, James Railman.
If you saw this grizzly mane, you would know that is not true, Nick. I'll have to show you a little bit later. But IEM Katowice, sorry. Over the weekend was an awesome tournament. Gambit Gaming, #1, they were dominant.
They earned it. They definitely
Moscow
earned it.
5, really impressive. They've created their own new organization here. Fnatic at #3. I think I had Fnatic at #1, but Azubu Blaze at #2. Really impressive tournament. What were your quick thoughts on Gambit in particular? Because they smashed Blaze in the finals.
Yeah, they're back to their old super aggressive style, which is very warming to watch. They were like kind of hit or miss, you know, for a while there. At IPL 5, they didn't have the greatest performance. I mean, they got 4th place, that's good, but we expected more from them. And they really came out for this tournament. They dominated. They played their aggressive style that we haven't seen in a while, and Azubu Blaze couldn't handle it. And I expected Korea to absolutely dominate this tournament, and they didn't, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Well, in particular, they have one of the best mid-top jungle combinations for Gambit Gaming, and that was always one of the strengths of the team. And right now, that patch in particular is designed for those Assassin Bruiser champions, and Alexich took advantage of that. We saw him playing Kazakh's mid, we saw him playing Olaf mid, which is very unusual. I'm going to have to start playing it some, though. His Rise was dominant as usual. So they took advantage of the current changes to the game. It was much more focused on those top and mid champions. Fnatic also looked impressive, and that's why I thought they were going to come in and have a dominant showing, because XPK and Soaz were so strong, and XPK had a couple of big plays. But we'll see, what we can see from them in the future.
Big plays is an understatement, because they were some of the biggest plays I've ever seen. Very good stuff. Next up, Big Fat LP. I mean, it's been a while now since the announcement, but he is no longer in the starting roster for Counterlogic Gaming. He's been around a long time.
It's the end of an era.
Yeah,
Big
really
Fat,
is.
he was part of the history of the team. And when you look at the team in general, he was there right from the beginning when they created the team. He was one of the reasons why they were such a strong team for such a long time. And it's wild. He was a carry. Just look up plays of Big Fat early on when he used to play with Little Balls. He actually had 3 of the top 5 spots on the ladder at one point, I think, with Big Fat, Sandy Richards, and I don't remember what his other account was. But it's wild. They've been struggling for about a year now, where they've always been blaming Big Fat on a lot of those issues. Hotshot has, Chalster has. And you could see there was kind of a rift building, between him and the team. He's still a sub. Link, I don't think there's going to be much of a fall-off for Link, because he's still a really dominant player. But I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Big Fat going forward.
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. He hasn't been living in the CLG house for quite some time now. He in a time where the mid lane is super ultra important to carry into the late game. He hasn't really been a standout player. He hasn't necessarily been bad, but he isn't someone that I remember, throughout these matches. He isn't someone that's making the difference, making these big plays in these games.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things for Big Fat, though, is he's very safe at the late game. I mean, in team fights, his team fight positioning is perfect, and his reaction and timing, that kind of stuff, is all perfect. He just struggles. He wasn't a very aggressive player in the early game, but I think he's grown as that with Chalster. Helping him and Chalster, he roams a lot more. But we'll see. Maybe he starts his own team. We'll have to see what happens in the future. Next up, rank ladder. It has been announced. There's a new rank tier system.
Yeah.
We'll see what's going to be happening with that. It's still the same, bronze, gold, silver, platinum, that kind of stuff. But what's going to happen is you actually have 5 divisions in each ranking, so you'll be like gold tier 2, gold tier 3, and then in order to get up a division, you start at 0 points in each division. You have to earn 100 points, 20 points per win, so about 5 wins positive. Each loss is going to slow you down, obviously. And then you play placement series in between raising, and if you win a best of 3, you move up a division. If you win a best of 5, then you move up a tier into like silver or something like that. So it's an interesting system. One of the unusual things I didn't mention, though, is you actually can't drop a tier. If you're gold, you're always gold until you raise. If you're platinum, you're always platinum. You stop there. So it's going to be unusual.
It'll be interesting to see how the system holds up with not being able to be demoted like that. Should be interesting. But I think the big thing is it takes away this ELO value that is clearly visible. And
Which I know is a big thing for you, to get rid of that whole ELO thing.
I'm crying all the time about my terrible ELO. But I mean, it's really catering more to the casual gamer, not necessarily super ultra hardcore players that are driven by this 4-digit number to see how high they can get it. Now it's about divisions and ranks. It isn't so much about losses. It's really about future progression. And I think that's a good thing for casual players. And I think it'll trickle down to the pro scene as well.
Yeah, I think think that it's going to help get people involved a lot more. One of the goals for this was they wanted people to feel like they were actually progressing and feel like they were having a good time. But my concern is going to be that it's going to take a couple hundred games to get from bronze up to diamond or whatever. It's going to be a long journey. It seems like having those series could maybe slow that down a little bit, but the benefit is you don't drop down. So we'll just have to see and play around with it some. I'm looking forward to it, but I am concerned about that it's going to take a little bit too long. So we'll see how much stretch they give you. Next up, OGN. They had seeding matches for next season last night, but coming up this week, just tomorrow actually, is going to be the third place match. It's Najin or Azubu Blaze versus KT Rolster B.
Yeah.
And we talked about last week's match. Najin Sword coming out ahead. The finals are going to be really exciting coming up. But what are your thoughts on this game?
I've been rooting for KT Rolster B all season. I was a little disappointed in their showing versus Najin Sword. They got 3 1s and then 3 0s. They really didn't show up for the match. I don't know if that's a matter of practice, but they were dominating everybody before that. So it's unfortunate Macnoon was able to just crush them, and it posed a pretty big problem for them. But third place, I think Azubu Blaze, right, is their opponent, isn't going to be able to stand up against KT Rolster B. They're very diversified in their build, and they just didn't know how to stop Macnoon in this last set, but I think they've learned from their mistakes. KT Rolster B can take the third place match.
That's interesting. I actually am going to go with Blaze again, and I think one of the key things here is you saw what they did at IEM Katowice. They were able to take down Fnatic, which is really impressive in and of itself. KT Rolster B, again, a lot of their star potential, it goes into their AD carry, whereas you look at the top and mid for Azubu Blaze is very strong. They were actually running some comps that were similar to what we've seen from TPA with Kale mid, Nidalee top, but Lusboy is one of the best supports in the world.
Yeah.
And right now, support is a very strong position. And I think Lusboy, his mechanics on Lulu in particular, Lulu has to be banned, which is going to take away some of these top-tier bans from the top and mid. And I think that Azubu Blaze is going to take it home 3-2. It's going to be close, though. I'm looking forward to the match.
Yeah, it should be very exciting. And then lastly, the EU Live Qualifiers happening this weekend. So we saw the NA Qualifier a couple weeks ago. Now it's our chance to witness these EU amateur teams, see how they can get in. So, I mean, the groups are pretty stacked, but I think for me, the top picks, Fnatic, LoL Pro, Meet Your Makers are all looking very strong. Who you liking?
Well, without a question, Fnatic, LoL Pro, Meet Your Makers are very strong. It's interesting. B and D, I think, are the groups of death. They're completely just insane because LoL Pro and Millennium in Group B, I see those as the number 2 and 3 team in the tournament behind Fnatic. So I have no doubt that they're going to make it in. I'm like putting a big, solid bet on that one. Group D as well is very strong. The second team of Group D is going to have to play Fnatic, but I think they're going to be strong enough to make it through, and I think that second team is going to be Mouse. So Meet Your Makers is going to be number 1 in Group D. I don't see any of the Group C guys contending. There's some good players there. Dragonborns is in Group B as well, Acer, but and then Alternate in Group A. I don't see Alternate winning. There's been a lot of struggles with them. Pharrell Lord, he can be just dominant sometimes and make just spectacular plays. However, at other times you see that he feeds and really struggles a lot of times. He can fall behind quickly. So I really think that the 5 that we picked are pretty solid.
Yeah, I think the big story here is to see how LoL Pro does. I mean, they had only 2 original members, Extinct and Maluno, and
they
those
weren't going to be allowed in this qualifier unless they picked up a guy from the old roster.
Right, so they picked up Slepper back. Yeah, so they have some of their old lineup. They're a strong team. Maluno is a really good jungler. Extinct has shown really strong skill as well. So it should be interesting to see how they perform. I think they'll do well. They have the fundamentals. They have the work ethic. They've had a lot of competition practice, and that's going to drive their victory. Yeah,
the competition practice is key. They're a team that's been around for a long time, so they definitely have that solid foundation. But that's going to be it, guys. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out all the tournaments that are happening this weekend. We're looking forward to them. Also check out GPL. That's going to be big coming up. And if you haven't bought buy tickets for IPL 6, we're really looking forward to the tournament. We've announced a couple of our qualifiers already, so you guys can get involved with those. TSM is going to be hosting some. CLG is going to be as well, and we'll announce some as we progress. But definitely buy tickets, IGN.com/IPL6.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool surprises for the event. It's going to be another notch up from IPL 5, so make sure you guys check it out.
Nick Allen's working on his belly dancing on the main stage.
Oh my God. Yes, I am. I'm very excited. But yeah, add us on Twitter, guys. I'm at Nick Allen IGN. He's at Baroncast. Let us know what you want us to talk about next week, and we'll see you then.